All right. I'll give it a minute for folks to come in. We are now reading Winnie-the-Pooh, Chapter 2. And I'll give folks a minute to come back in. And I'll read Chapter 3 and the rest probably another evening. But I'll give folks a minute. Hi, Life's Magic and Beauty. Oh, and I need to put the little banner so people know that I am reading. There we go. There we go. So I'll wait a few minutes. Thank you guys. I know this is a little awkward and I don't know how to do it correctly. But I'll give it a minute for folks to come in. If you missed the introduction and chapter 1, you can go back and I have them separated out in chapters. So there's the introduction, there's chapter 1, and now this is chapter 2. So it is from Winnie-the-Pooh. It is the original Winnie-the-Pooh by A.A. Milne. To catch you up on the introduction and chapter 1, the introduction was about what's going on. I encourage you to go read it or listen to it. Chapter 1, it became apparent to me because I've never read it before that this is a story that's being made up and told to a little boy named Christopher Robin, who has his Winnie the Pooh plushie with him. And this person that's reading the story or making up the story is making the story up and including Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin into the story. So Winnie the Pooh being his little stuffed animal that he has. All right, so I am going to start. I don't know, how long has it been? I'll give it another minute or so. I probably should start it. Next time I'm just going to, I'll give a warning that I'm going live. I'm going to do it. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to read another chapter tonight or not. So yeah, here, let me moisten my lips. Take a little, moisten my vocal cords. Hi, Emily. M&A. So while I'm reading, I won't be able to see the chat, but I will do a chat check at the very end. And you can always go back. These are going to be in a playlist. So there's 10 chapters. I'm on chapter 2. And you'll be able to go back and just listen to them all at once, including my rambling. But there's nothing I can do about that. I'm not one of those professional read-aloud people. All right, so I'm going to start. Well, no, I'll give it one more minute. I'll give it one more minute because it's 10:44. So we'll start at 10:45. One more minute. Thank you, Margie, for being here. Sheena, Lucky Ducky, M&A. I think my husband left, Max, but he's always here with me. That was my husband, Max, that came in. My actual husband, Max. I call him my husband because he's the person in Michigan that I got James from. So James is our child. So I consider him my husband, if you guys didn't know. He's really like a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful friend. And a blessing in my life. All right. 10:45. I am going to start. Here we go. Winnie-the-Pooh, Chapter 2. And I'll show you the pictures now. Let's see. So it looks like Winnie-the-Pooh's got his head in there. And I don't know what's going on there. But here we go. Hi, Patsy. Glass of milk and a cookie. All right. And I turned the fan off, but guess what? I got to turn it back on. Pardon me for a moment, because the heat is always on in here at night, and I'm roasting. I turned it off, hoping I could live without it, but I can't. All right. All right. Chapter 2, Winnie-the-Pooh. Goga. Okay, you guys, I'm not looking at the chat anymore. I'm going to read the Goga. Mwah, mwah, mwah. This is Dancing with Words. All right, chapter 2, in which Pooh goes visiting and gets into a tight place. So Edward Bear, known to his friends as Winnie-the-Pooh, or Pooh for short, was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He had made up a little tune that very morning as he was doing his stoutness exercises in front of the glass. Tra-la-la, as he stretched up high as he could, and then tra-la-la, tra-la, oh, help, as he tried to reach his toes. After breakfast, he had said it over and over to himself until he had learnt it off by heart, and now he was humming it right through properly. It went like this. Tra-la-la, 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 rum-tum-tiddle, tum, tiddle-little, 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 rum-tum, tiddle-tum. That was hard to read. It's very tiny. I didn't say it right even. At least it rhymed. Tiddle. Well, he was humming this hum to himself and walking along gaily, wondering what everyone else was doing and what it felt like being somebody else, when suddenly he came to a sandy bank, and in the bank was a large hole. Aha, said Pooh. Rum-tum, tiddle-um-tum. If I know anything about anything, that hole means rabbit, he said. And rabbit means company, he said. And company means food and listening to me humming and such the like. Rum-tum, tum-tiddle-um. So he bent down, put his head into the hole, and called out, "Is anyone at home?" There was a sudden scuffling noise from inside the hole, and then silence. What I said was, "Is anybody at home?" called out Pooh very loudly. "No," said a voice, and then added, "You needn't shout so loud. I heard you quite well the first time." "Oh, bother," said Pooh. "Isn't there anybody here at all?" "Nobody," said the voice. Winnie-the-Pooh took his head out of the hole and thought for a little. And he thought to himself, there must be somebody there, because nobody must have said nobody. So he put his head back in the hole and said, "Hello, Rabbit. Isn't that you?" "No," said Rabbit, in a different voice this time. "But isn't that Rabbit's voice?" "I don't think so," said Rabbit. It isn't meant to be. Oh, said Pooh. He took his head out of the hole and had another think. And then he put it back and said, well, could you very kindly tell me where Rabbit is? He has gone to see his friend Pooh Bear, who is a great friend of his, said the voice. But this is me, said Bear, very much surprised. What sort of me? Said the voice. Pooh Bear, said Pooh. Are you sure? Said Rabbit, still more surprised. Quite sure, said Pooh. Oh, well, then come in. So Pooh pushed and pushed and pushed his way through the hole. And at last he got in. You were quite right, said Rabbit, looking him all over. It is you. Glad to see you, Pooh. Who did you think it was? Well, I wasn't sure. You know how it is in the forest. One can't have anybody coming into one's house. One has to be careful. What about a mouthful of something? Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was very glad to see Rabbit getting out the plates and mugs. And when Rabbit said, honey or condensed milk with your bread, he was so excited that he said, both. And then, so as not to seem greedy, he added, but don't bother about the bread, please. And for a long time after that, he said nothing. Until at last, humming to himself in a rather sticky voice, he got up, shook Rabbit lovingly by the paw, and said that he must be going on. Must you? Said Rabbit politely. Well, said Pooh, I could stay a little longer if you... And he tried very hard to look into the direction of the larder. Larder. See if I can find it for you. Larder. I don't know. Direction of the larder. As a matter of fact, said Rabbit, I was going out myself directly. Oh, well then, I'll be going on. Goodbye. Well, goodbye. If you're sure you won't have any more. Is there any more? Asked Pooh quickly. Rabbit took the covers off the dishes and said, no, there isn't. I thought not, said Pooh, nodding to himself. Well, goodbye. I must be going on. So he started to climb out of the hole. He pulled with his front paws and he pushed with his back paws, and a little while his nose was out in the open again, and then his ears, and then his front paws, and then his shoulders, and then... Oh, help, said Pooh. I'd better go back. Oh, bother, said Pooh. I shall have to go on. I can't do either, said Pooh. Oh, help and bother. Now, by this time, Rabbit wanted to go for a walk, too. And finding the front door full, he went out by the back door and came round to Pooh and looked at him. Hello there. Are you stuck? He asked. No, said Pooh carelessly. Just resting and thinking and humming to myself. Here, give us a paw. Pooh Bear stretched out a paw, and Rabbit pulled and pulled and pulled. Ow, cried Pooh. You're hurting me. The fact is, said Rabbit, you're stuck. It all comes, said Pooh crossly, of not having front doors big enough. It all comes, said Rabbit sternly, of eating too much. I thought at the time, said Rabbit, only I didn't like to say anything, said Rabbit, that one of us was eating too much, said Rabbit. And I knew it wasn't me, he said. Well, well, I shall go and fetch Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin lived at the other end of the forest, and when he came back with Rabbit and saw the front half of Pooh, he said, Silly old bear, in such a loving voice that everybody felt quite hopeful again. I was just beginning to think, said Bear, sniffing slightly, that Rabbit might never be able to use his front door again. And I should hate that, he said. So should I, said Rabbit. Use his front door again, said Christopher Robin. Of course he'll use his front door again. Good, said Rabbit. If we can't pull you out, Pooh, we might push you hard back in. Rabbit scratched his whiskers thoughtfully and pointed out that when once Pooh was pushed back, he was back. And of course, nobody was more glad to see Pooh than he was. Still, there it was. Some lived in trees and some lived underground. And you mean I'd never get out? Asked Pooh. I mean, said Rabbit, that having got so far, it seems a pity to waste it. Christopher Robin nodded. Wait, did I show you that, you guys? Did I show you this? Rabbit came around the front. Pooh's stuck in his front door. Christopher Robin nodded. Then there's only one thing to be done, he said. We shall have to wait for you to get thin again. How long does getting thin take? Asked Pooh anxiously. About a week, I should think. I wish. I wish I could get thin again in a week. But I can't stay here for a week. You can stay here all right, silly old bear. It's getting you out which is so difficult. We'll read to you, said Rabbit cheerfully. And I hope it won't snow, he added. And I say, old fella, you're taking up a good deal of room in my house. Do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel horse? Because, I mean, there they are, doing nothing, and it would be very convenient just to hang the towels on them. A week, said Pooh gloomfully. What about meals? I'm afraid no meals, said Christopher Robin, because of getting thin quicker. But we will read to you. Bear began to sigh, and then found he couldn't, because he was so tightly stuck. And a tear rolled down his eye as he said, Then would you read a sustaining book, such as would help and comfort a wedged bear in great tightness? So for a week, Christopher Robin read that sort of book at the north end of Pooh and Rabbit, hung his washing on the south end, and in between, Bear felt himself getting slenderer and slenderer, and at the end of the week, Christopher Robin said, Now. Christopher Robin reading to Pooh while he was getting slender. And there's Rabbit hanging towels on his legs. So he took hold of Pooh's front paws, and Rabbit took hold of Christopher Robin. And all Rabbit's friends and relations took hold of Rabbit. And they all pulled together. And for a long time, Pooh only said, ow, and ow, and oh. And then all of a sudden he said, just as if a cork were coming out of a bottle. And Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards, and on the top of them came Winnie-the-Pooh, free. So with a nod of thanks to his friends, he went on with his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself. But Christopher Robin looked after him lovingly and said to himself, silly old bear. And that's the end of chapter 2. All right. So, let me readjust myself. I'm going to do a chat check. Thank you guys all for being here. I didn't think anybody would be here, so I'm very grateful. Let's see. Patsy, she said, I chose a bad chapter to eat cookies and milk. And Shirley, hi Sherry. I'm going to go backwards instead of reduced to being used as furniture. Yes. Busby Adventures, hello. Thank you guys for popping in. I feel like I want to keep going, but I want to do it each chapter at a time, but maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. But I think trying to decide, should I read one more chapter? I could read one more chapter, chapter 3. I could just keep going until I'm tired. Sherry says more reading. I mean, I feel like I want to keep reading it. I didn't expect to want to keep reading it. So let's see. Chapter 3 is, there's only 10 chapters. I could probably do it all at once. I could do another chapter. Chapter 3. All right. So let's do 1104. We're going to do, well, I'll just come back ASAP. Sheena, I'll come back ASAP. I do want to separate it into chapters. Unfortunately, maybe I should. I did see other people doing more than one chapter, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go away and come back and do another chapter. So, yeah. Do I have to say anything else at the very end? For people watching on the replay, chapter 3 coming. Go click. Well, hopefully you're on the playlist and you just play it all out. All right. Chapter 3 coming up, guys. Don't go too far away. I have to do a bunch of weird little things with StreamYard and boom, 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 boom. And then I'll be back. Thank you, guys. I'm going to stick this up here for end broadcast.